Hello and thanks for joining us for our mid-morning edition of Arirang News. I'm Mark Broom. Let's start with a look at the day's headlines. US President Donald Trump floats the idea of also meeting North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at Panmunjom on the inter-Korean border. Sources say he loved the images from the inter-Korean summit at the same location. In line with the diplomatic breakthrough reached at last week's summit, South Korea starts the process of dismantling its loudspeakers that have been broadcasting anti-Pyongyang slogans across the border for years. Plus, South Korea is marking Labor Day. It means a day off for hundreds of thousands of public sector workers. We have details on the events planned in Seoul to mark the occasion. So let's start with the latest developments on North Korea. US President Donald Trump has suggested the truce village of Panmunjom as a possible venue for his landmark summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in the coming weeks. Trump said the venue on the inter-Korean border would be a representative, important and lasting site. Our Kim Hyo-sun starts us off.
The truce village of Panmunjom, where the leaders of the two Koreas renewed their commitment to establish peace on the Korean peninsula, is being considered as a possible venue for the U.S. North Korea Summit, scheduled for late May or early June. After meeting with his Nigerian counterpart at the White House on Monday, President Trump said the inter-Korean border would be an excellent venue for the summit.
We're looking at various countries, including Singapore. And we are also talking about the possibility of the DMZ, Peace House, Freedom House. And there's something that I thought was intriguing. There's something that I like about it because you're there. You're actually there, where if things work out, there's a great celebration to be had on the site, not in a third-party country.
He also tweeted on Monday that the Peace House or the Freedom House on the inter-Korean border could be a more representative, important, and lasting site than a third-party country. Until late last week, Trump had said potential summit locations had been whittled down to two countries, including Singapore. But it looks like President Trump discussed the idea of holding the summit at Panmunjom during his phone talks with South Korean President Jaein following last week's inter-Korean summit. After their conversation, which Trump hailed as long and good, he also added that things are going well and the time and location of the meeting is being set. If Panmunjom is finalized as a venue for the first ever meeting between the sitting leaders of the U.S. and North Korea, the inter-Korean border, which has long been a symbol of division, would likely become a true symbol of peace. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
Now, as a follow-up measure to Friday's inter-Korean summit agreement, work begins this afternoon on dismantling the loudspeakers set up along the inter-Korean border. For more, let's connect to our Park Ji-won, who's standing by for us at Seoul's Defense Ministry. Ji-won.
Mark, as you said, around 40 South Korean anti-North Korean regime loudspeakers set up along the demilitarized zone on the inner Korean border will be dismantled starting from this afternoon. This morning, a South Korean Defense Ministry official told Arirang News that military personnel are being trained on how to take apart the speakers before the military begins work to dismantle the loudspeakers from 2 in the afternoon. This is part of efforts to implement the Panmunjom Declaration, in which the two sides agreed to stop all hostile acts from today, May 1st, including broadcasting messages through loudspeakers and distributing leaflets in the areas along the border. The ministry assured the public, though, that the military is maintaining its utmost readiness and preparedness while doing its best to carry out the measures of Friday's historic agreement. The Defense Ministry is also planning to let the media film the dismantling work for a few hours in the afternoon, so I will bring you updates in a later newscast. Back to you, Mark.
Well, thank you, Ji-won, for that report. Now, South Korea is continuing its push for the formation of joint Korea teams at the 2018 Asian Games that will be held in Jakarta in August. During their summit at Panmunjom last Friday, the leaders of the two Koreas agreed to jointly participate in international sports competitions. Seoul's Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism says it has asked 40 national sports federations whether they would be willing to form a unified team at the Asian Games. 7 federations, including table tennis, basketball and judo, have shown interest in the proposal. The move comes after the two Koreas formed a joint women's ice hockey team at the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics in February. So it's the first week since the cross-border summit was held between the two Koreas, and during a meeting with his top aides on Monday, President Moon Jae-in thanked the South Korean people for their enthusiastic support. To his staff, he called for swift follow-up action in accordance with the Panmunjom Declaration. Hwang Ho-jun reports.
President Moon expresses satisfaction with the outcome of the 2018 Inter-Korean Summit.
판문점 선언은 새로운 한반도 시대를 여는 역사적 출발입니다.
And he thanked those in South Korea and abroad for their support, but he was adamant that there's still much to be done.
그러나 우리는 이제 첫 발을 내딛었을 뿐입니다. 그야말로 시작했을 뿐입니다. 새로운 각오로 후속 조치에 만전을 기해 주시기 바랍니다.
Meeting with his top aides Monday afternoon, President Moon again stressed the significance of the Panmunjom Declaration, the joint statement signed by him and his North Korean counterpart Kim Jong-un last Friday. He said it established a foundation for the two Koreas to build trust, to ease military tensions, and to seek better communication and achieve mutual prosperity. To ensure that the declaration is carried out, President Moon called for the Summit Preparation Committee to be reconstituted and tasked with its implementation. He said South Korea needs to do its utmost to help ensure the success of the upcoming U.S. North Korea Summit set for May or early June. The Liberal leader also urged his staff to start with preliminary studies and research to find and prioritize actions that in the current circumstances can be implemented as soon as possible. A Blue House official later explained that such studies will include a joint research with Pyongyang on possible economic cooperation projects, which currently would be subject to the international sanctions on the North. And last but not least, President Moon said the Panmunjom Declaration needs to be ratified by the National Assembly. The point of ratifying a declaration is to acknowledge it as a treaty signed by two states, which would ensure it is implemented even if there is a change in administration down the road. But ratification would face major hurdles. South Korea's opposition could block it for one, and legally, the South Korean constitution doesn't recognize a North Korean state as existing. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
Now, riding on the wave of positivity sweeping the Korean peninsula, President Moon Jae-in says his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts to end the standoff with North Korea over its nuclear weapons program. Officials of the Presidential Office of Cheongwa-dae said President Moon told his senior secretaries that, quote, President Trump should win the Nobel Peace Prize and what we need is only peace. Adding to the hype, a British betting firm has made President Moon and Kim Jong-un as favourites to win this year's Nobel Peace Prize. Ladbrokes shows the odds of the joint win is 4 to 6 on rather. In other words, the probability stands at 60%. North Korea's senior party, state and military officials met on Monday to discuss the regime's new strategic policy of building a socialist economy and upgrading science and education. According to the state-run Korean Central News Agency on Tuesday, Choi Ryong-hae, vice chairman of the Workers' Party's Central Committee and cabinet premier, Park Bong-ju presided over the meeting, noting that 2018 marks the third year of the North's 5-year economic development plan. The meeting focused on ways to achieve self-realization and modernization of the North Korean economy. Pyongyang announced a new strategic policy of building a socialist economy last month, declaring an end to its nuclear weapons development. So, with the Inter-Korean Summit now over, focus turns to the North Korea-US Summit. But with reports saying the summit was agreed to by President Trump against his advisors' wishes, some have expressed concern over its outcome. Our Kwon Jang-ho spoke to the former US ambassador to South Korea, Kathleen, who shared her thoughts about the current situation.
Ambassador Stevens, thank you for having us here in your lovely home.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Welcome to California.
What has been your reaction to the developments over the last few months? There is some argument that say Trump's attitude towards North Korea have helped these developments happen.
Well, I think certainly this new and very unconventional, to put it mildly, American president has been part of the mix over the past year. I don't think anyone can say with certainty what has driven Kim Jong-un to make some of the decisions he's made over the last few months. But what we do know, obviously, is that he made a decision to open up a path, which Seoul then embraced and has moved forward with. And now, of course, President Trump making this rather surprising and quick decision to say, all right, let's start at the top and see where we get from there.
What concerns do you have towards a Trump-Kim summit?
I have that conventional concern that this is a summit that is happening without, if you like, the traditional preparation. You know, I've been involved in many summits in different places over my career, and you know, generally, the notion has always been when your two leaders get together, usually you don't want too many surprises. You know, you've worked out the deal pretty much. This is very different, and when you have two leaders meet without things kind of set, it's got to be a fairly broad framework, and then you've got to implement, and that's going to take time. Whether it's shutting down nuclear programs and getting inspectors in, whether it's getting to work on resuming some economic and energy cooperation. And I worry about, I guess, shortcuts. You know, what if there's a deal that maybe satisfies some core issues of America first, but that is not taking into account the security concerns in Seoul or Tokyo?
Currently, there is no ambassador, US ambassador in South Korea. Especially as an ex-ambassador, how much of a concern is it for you?
Well, not only as an ex-ambassador, but as a former American diplomat, I am very concerned about the weakening and frankly just the lack of staffing in diplomatic positions in general. And we feel it, I think, particularly keenly when we're looking at an issue like Korea, where something unprecedented is about to happen. A sitting American president has said that he's going to meet with the leader of the DPRK. So you kind of want to have not only your A-team in place, you want to have a sense of continuity, and that's the other thing that you hope that over time, you know, your senior officials and diplomats provide.
How important is South Korea's role in this current situation?
One of the things that I actually find most significant and hopefully encouraging about what's going on now is that the Republic of Korea has played such an important role as a catalyst and as a shaper. But with that comes some risk and some responsibility too. And I think it makes it all the more important that Seoul and Washington have the best possible communication, frankness, coordination of their efforts, because we do have to be mindful that it's a very common strategy in any negotiation to try to wedge drive, to try to split. And we do have somewhat different perspectives, but we have to make sure that we stay together, because I also think that's another kind of fundamental principle of making some progress on these long-standing issues of reconciliation and peace on the Korean Peninsula, is that it has to be very Seoul-centered, and it has to be very centered on the alliance.
Thank you again for your time and your insights, and let's do hope for the best for the summits.
The world is watching, yes. Let's hope for the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, in other news, today, May 1st, is International Labour Day, a day that celebrates workers and promotes their rights. To commemorate the day, the Federation of Korean Trade Unions held the 2018 Labour Day Marathon at Jamshil Olympic Stadium at 9 a.m. As well as workers and their families, migrant workers took part. The Korean Federation of Trade Unions, they're going to host a Labor Day demonstration at Seoul Plaza at 2 p.m. today. The union's regional branches are also organising local rallies, and other labour unions will hold demonstrations across the country. South Korea's exports had been on an upward swing for 17 consecutive months, but now the export rate is on the decline. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy announced that the estimated total value of exports in April was $50 billion. The export rate has decreased by 1.5% compared to April last year. Meanwhile, the import rate increased by 14.5% compared to the previous year, but Korea has still maintained its trade surplus for the 75th month in a row. Despite the falling export rates in April, exports for the January to April period were the highest on record, increasing by nearly 7% compared to the previous year. Police are questioning the Korean heiress involved in the water rage scandal this morning over allegations she threw water at an ad agency employee. Jo Hyun-min, who's the younger daughter of the airline's chairman, Jo Yang-ho, is being questioned on charges of assault and obstruction of business after being booked and banned from overseas travel last month. Police are expected to question her on whether she threw water or a glass of water at the ad firm manager during a meeting. Officials say Lee Myung-hee, the wife of the chairman, who is at the centre of a different scandal regarding the verbal and physical abuse of employees, may face questioning as well. Now for a look at stories making headlines around the world, and we're going to start with the ongoing controversy over the Iran nuclear deal. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he has evidence that Tehran was lying when it said it had given up pursuit of nuclear weapons. For more on this and other international news, let's turn to our Noah Aram. So Aram, there are just under 2 weeks now until President Trump has to decide on what to do with the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. But Netanyahu really is nudging his US counterpart, who he has a good relationship with, to scrap this agreement.
That's right, Mark. Netanyahu went on national television on Monday to present what he called evidence of a secret Iranian nuclear weapons program. He said Iranian officials had deceived the world by denying it had ever sought nuclear weapons, adding they moved relevant documents to a secret location in Tehran.
Iran lied. Big time. After signing the nuclear deal in 2015, Iran intensified its efforts to hide its secret nuclear file. In 2017, Iran moved its nuclear weapons files to a highly secret location in Tehran. A few weeks ago, in a great intelligence achievement, Israel obtained half a ton of the material inside these vaults. And here's what we got. 55,000 pages. Another 55,000 files on 183 CDs.
President Trump, who has long been critical of the Iran nuclear deal, said his Israeli counterpart's presentation showed he was right about Iran.
What Israel has done today with the news conference, and Prime Minister Netanyahu just gave a very, I don't know if everybody's seen it, but I got to see a little bit of it, and that is just not an acceptable situation. And I've been saying that's happening. They're not sitting back idly. They're setting off missiles, which they say are for television purposes. I don't think so. So we'll see what happens. I'm not telling you what I'm doing, but a lot of people think they know. And on or before the 12th, we'll make a decision.
Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif pushed back against Netanyahu's claims, dismissing his presentation as propaganda. In a tweet, he said the evidence was a, quote, rehash of old allegations which had already been dealt with by the UN nuclear watchdog. The 2015 deal has been a hot topic since Trump came to office, who has long threatened to pull out of the agreement. European nations have acknowledged that the deal had its shortcomings, but have urged Trump to keep it for now, as it still provides the best deterrent for Iran not to obtain nuclear weapons. A series of attacks in Afghanistan have left at least 31 people dead, including 10 journalists. It marks the deadliest assault on the media since the fall of the Taliban in 2001. 9 reporters were killed Monday in twin suicide bombings in Kabul, which were claimed by the Islamic State group. The first bomber blew himself up near the NATO headquarters and the US Embassy while riding a motorcycle. About 20 minutes later, the second attacker, disguised as a TV cameraman, detonated his device, killing reporters who rushed to the scene of the first attack. A few hours later, in the southern Kandahar province, a suicide car bomb targeting a NATO convoy killed 11 children from a nearby religious school. In a separate attack in the eastern Khost province, 29-year-old Ahmad Shah, a reporter for the BBC's Afghan service, was shot dead by unknown gunmen. A series of small earthquakes have struck along the US west coast, sparking fears a bigger tremor might be on the way. A 3.3 magnitude quake was recorded in Alamo, some 48 kilometers from San Francisco on Monday. It followed 3 small tremors that were recorded in Danville the day before, and the US Geological Survey continued to record smaller tremors. There have been no reports of injuries or damages yet, though rail services were slowed as a precaution. Residents in California are worried the swarm of small tremors may signal that a bigger quake is coming, but the USGS says that is unlikely to happen.
Good morning. There's varied weather across Korea on this first day of May, which is also Labor Day in Korea and China. Cloudy skies will feature all day with rain expected to fall on Jeju Island and along the south coast from this afternoon, while the capital area will see showers tomorrow. And until the rain falls, we will be covered by high levels of smog and fine dust. The capital area is likely to have low air quality all day, while the rest of the country will see the air quality improving gradually. Temperatures will warm today. Seoul, Daejeon, and Chuncheon will all make it to 25 degrees Celsius, while Daegu and Gyeongju will make it to 24 degrees this afternoon. With that, let's take a look at the international weather for viewers around the world. So South Korea will see some welcome rain from this afternoon into tomorrow. Most parts of North Korea will also see showers, but with mild temperatures. Tokyo and Beijing will be under mostly sunny skies all day, and it's going to be warmer in Tokyo at a high of 28 degrees. This April in Sydney has often felt more like mid-summer than mid-autumn. The city has just experienced its hottest ever April. And heading to North America, New Yorkers can finally break out the t-shirts this week. And as for South America, most major cities on the map will be under mainly sunny skies. Taking you to Europe, the soggy start to the week in London came with chilly temperatures, but expect stable weather conditions on Tuesday. Lastly, to Africa, it's getting hotter by the day in Cairo, and on Friday, the temperatures will hit its peak. And that's all the weather update for now.